Hello and welcome to the Intentional Soul, the home for the highly functioning spiritual types out in the world. It is here that we look at the world and ourselves through the lens of higher consciousness, connecting deeply to who and what we really are. Now, my name is Tom Ross, spiritual teacher, healer, spiritual nonconformist, and I am your host for these conversations. On the Intentional Soul, we hear not only from me, but from people who are living intentionally, openly, and authentically in their world. We'll hear their stories of personal transformation while sharing best practices and tactics to help you get the most out of this game called life. Now, nothing is off limits as we seek to expand ourselves and our awareness and live, ultimately, our most authentic lives. Let's dive in. All right, with us today is Griff Williams. Griff was a firefighter, fire brigade actually in London, and he found himself taking a new path after life threw him a curveball with a personal loss when he was 28. Now, later, after attending his second 10-day silent Vipassana retreat in India, he decided to commit his time to spread the word about the life-changing impacts and benefits of meditation. And Griff now is a founder of MindEasy, which is a mindfulness meditation service that helps people find their own path into meditation. Griff, welcome to the Intentional Soul.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So talk to us about about yourself and about your background. Like, I'm a fire brigade firefighter, and now I run a meditation service. Like, those are seemingly on the outside two disparate paths. Talk to us about what brought you to where you are right now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, it was a bit of an unusual journey, I suppose. So yeah, I grew up in London. I joined the fire brigade, became a firefighter when I was quite young. I was 18 when I got into it, kind of just fell into it, which I generally seems to be the pattern of my life. Just things turn up and they pull me in. I've been doing that I've probably been doing it for about nine years. And then me and my girlfriend decided I decided to take a year out. The fire brigade offered me a career break option. So we decided we'd go do a bit of volunteering and live in India for a year. While we were out there, we met a few people we were working at school who had also taken the Vipassana and became quite interested in it. And I think a few people just heard about it. And more than anything, I just thought that sounds like a bit of a fun challenge to put myself up for, kind of like 10 days silence. This sounds like a quite interesting thing to do.
Well, hold on. You're 28 at this point, and you're like, it'd be awesome. A 10-day silent meditation retreat that sounded like an adventure.
Yeah, it sounded like an adventure. It just sounded like a challenge, I think. And my girlfriend, that sounds quite gnarly, like, I wonder what that's like. And I guess kind of in that mindset when you're out in India, you want to kind of throw yourself into that kind of stuff. So yeah. But before that even happened, while we were away, unfortunately, my dad had a heart attack back home, and I found out, rushed home, from the middle of a forest in the middle of nowhere. We were living in India in this school, and was home for a while, for about a month, like doing a funeral and all that kind of stuff. Came back and then decided to continue because I still had my year off, so kind of thought, let's go back and make the most of it. It's what he would have wanted. And then, eventually we decided, okay, let's give that thing a go. And then just during the Vipassana, I kind of thought, a lot came up. They're very hard things. I don't know if you've ever done 10 days of silence, but more than it being a 10-day of silence thing, it's like 10 hours of just meditation a day, which is quite just in reflecting.
It's intense. Had you had meditation practice or experience prior to this 10-day retreat?
No. So, well, I've kind of always been interested in that kind of stuff, to be honest. But okay. I don't think anything more than, I don't know, like laying down and trying some binaural beats or just, a 10-minute go at it, like here and there, So nothing really. Yeah. Nothing where I kind of experienced the benefits of it. And there was one time while practicing, that first one, most of the time it was just a struggle, to be honest. I was just had a lot of stuff going in my head. I was probably like dealing with a lot of grief. And like the first 4 days of the Vipassana, you just focus on the breath, and you focus on the breath for 2 seconds, and you realize you're not focusing on it anymore, and then you're like, oh god, this is impossible. And I had this moment when my mind just like flipped into a new state, and I was like, whoa, I'm just fully focused now on something, and I've never experienced anything like that. It was like just a change of state, and I like left the meditation hall, and I just felt this like sense of focus and sense of sereneness. I guess it's very hard to describe, that I hadn't felt before, and that really just like gave me an insight that there was something to it, really. And it wasn't until I got back to England, and it's probably been a couple of years. That's actually where I did the second one. Yeah, where it kind of all clicked a bit more. I was still in the fire brigade then. And then, I guess the idea for MindEasy came up is like after that, I think just while you do the Vipassanas and just learning about meditation nowadays, there's just so many different like takes on it. Like you have a spiritual take on it, like the Vipassana is very much a like Buddhist approach. And some of the language, maybe if you're not ready for it, can seem a bit out there. And the modern approach to mindfulness is very much to like leave that aside and just talk about like, this is for your wellness, this is going to help you focus, this is for your the mental health wellness side of it. Then you also have like a lot of people who do it saying like Silicon Valley, who are just like, this is going to make you more focused and productive for your job.
Right.
Like kind of just for my kind of light bulb moment was like, was taking the stuff I was learning in the Vipassana, the Buddhist side of it, translating it to myself into something that made sense to me, and then just realizing, maybe a lot of the way people getting turned off by this stuff is, it's essentially always saying the same thing but a different way. So I thought, why not just ask people like, look, how do you want to hear about this? And like then we can present it to you like that. And that's kind of the birth of MindEasy. And then I was doing MindEasy for maybe a year alongside the fire brigade, and then decided, I've been doing fire brigade for over 10 years. Maybe it's time to just dive into this. And it was both the best and worst decision I've ever made in my life.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So I want to restate, and it sounds like you were describing meditation, and people who are practitioners of meditation and know the profound benefits of meditation many times are essentially trying to Trojan horse the real benefits of meditation through whatever medium someone, so Silicon Valley, like you said, you're going to make more money because you're going to be more focused, because whatever, or name your industry, like what are the buzzwords that get this person interested in like taking the step. And you guys, and you at MindEasy, you just decided it's like, hey, there's this thing that's amazing, how actually taking it to them instead of trying to cram some version of dogma and bullshit down their throat. You're just being honest, about like what, like how would this reach you? What would be important to you about taking something like that? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my initial product was just a Vipassana course that I wrote in 3 different ways. And I just, be like, I did a few different courses written in different ways. And I said, just do an online for like, a kind of funnel, and just like, tell me, what do you want out of this? And we'll present it to you like that.
Yeah.
And then, I guess I always do like to see it as a bit of a gateway, whatever it is whatever way you're presenting it is a bit of a gateway drug to the hardcore Buddhism in the end of the day anyway.
Well, I mean, it's for people that are drawn to deeper understanding of themselves and deeper states of awareness, just in general, all paths lead to, the same, same kind of spot. So, but, would you mind kind of like parsing out like a little bit about like Vipassana, like what is, because there's a lot of people who don't know really what meditation is. It's like a buzzword that doesn't have any contextual understanding, or like mindfulness. Like what is mindfulness? How is that different than let's say a practice of a Vipassana meditation? What are the benefits of each?
Sure. Yeah. And you're totally right. Like meditation is such a broad term and just an umbrella term for all these different techniques, which have, different outcomes and different ways of approaching them, which is, again, another thing I wanted to do with MindEasy is be like, what do you want out of this? And like, this is the technique which can help you get it, This is the technique in the way you want to find it. So like, Vipassana specifically is about trying to, how's the best way to say it? Trying to create understanding this state of equanimity. That's kind of what you're there to do. So that's quite a large word.
Will you describe what is equanimity? Because I can't, if I'm gonna take my eyes off you if I Google it right now.
No, yeah. It basically means non-reaction, I suppose, in a way. Like, to be equanimous about something is to be not distant and not kind of like avoidant, but like you can sit with it when it's there. And that's both with, difficult emotions, also pleasant ones, because ultimately like pleasant things you end up craving and wanting more. Mm-hmm. Also leads to like a state of like satisfaction. So it's being able to notice the thing and not react to it, remain equanimous to it. And then Vipassana is just a technique which like helps you learn that. So I mean, I'll walk you through. If you take I did a 10-day course through the Goenka Foundation. They have them all over the world. They are free, or you pay what you want at the end. I couldn't recommend them more to anyone. The first 4 days is the foundation where you just practice anapana, just the breath, just like being focused on the breath. And then the actual Vipassana technique, where you try to gain this state of equanimity, is the end goal is to sit very still for an hour without moving a muscle and just do a body scan. And just while you're doing that body scan, like not moving for an hour, a lot comes up, like something will begin to cramp. You'll start to think of something, and just to like get to that part of your body and be like, okay, that's cramping. I'm not going to react. I'm not going to get up and move. I'm just going to observe it for a bit, move on to the next bit of my body. And then you come back and there it is again. And you're like, oh, it's gone now. And it's teaching you that, they're teaching you the quality of impermanence and how to remain equanimous to it. So, I mean, that's just one technique which teaches that. And then, you could do something also for like on MindEasy, a mantra meditation course was another meditation technique that I taught myself, which I find is just very good for like focusing the mind. I practice it in the morning and it just puts me in like a very like straight state of mind and like very focused. So two different things, in my mind, very different, but both under that umbrella term of meditation.
You've talked about just the meditation, the power of meditation and transformation. How have you experienced yourself transforming through the practice of meditation? And then what do you see other people being able to transform in themselves?
Yeah, again, I guess it's what you want. I think learning about equanimity from Vipassana has been like hugely beneficial to me, like just in your everyday life. It doesn't make you perfect by any means, that like you're never going to react to stuff, but it just gives you that little buffer, I think, sometimes where you'll get in a little argument with your girlfriend, or something happens on the road and it annoys you, and you just, because you practice looking inside and noticing those things come up, it just gives you that little bit of like metacognition to be like, oh, I'm feeling this way. I don't have to continue like reacting to it and just snowballing this stuff out. And then like, it just gives you this little gap that like lets you kind of like step back and just be like, I'm just going to just observe this now. Also, as practice, I found very profound is like loving kindness meditation, where, you just sit and you're just trying to generate like those feelings of like compassion and empathy towards people, and like, and just just leaves me feeling just like happy. And you just go out into the world, and like the way you interact with people, because you've just like been thinking about being compassionate for half an hour makes you that way. And like, you always get back what you put out, right? So you go out in the world compassionate, people give you that back, and it just makes like life so much richer, in my opinion. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it's terrific. And when you talk about the buffer, it reminds me of let's say, this is not meditation related, but Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, when he goes down and he talks about like the last thing that a human being has, they can take everything away from you. The last thing that you have is that the ability to kind of like choose, a response to something. That there's always that split second between stimulus and response. And it's like the act of equanimity, the ability to sit with, like kind of like expands that space so that when a thing happens, a thing is happening and I'm not necessarily responding to it. How do I choose? Is there not a response? So it's like my hallucination of the phenomenon that you're describing is like spreading open the space where everything can be okay before you decide, then you choose what to do on the other side of the stimulus. So would you say that produces more feelings of just kind of like peace or all is well? Like what's the practical benefit that you experience on a personal level?
Yeah, I would say that it's just not having to get carried away by emotions. It's almost a superpower sometimes, and like that just reverberates out into your whole life, and just leaves you with me personally. It just makes me feel a lot more peaceful and just a lot more happier.
Yeah. So you're in the fire brigade. You take you do that initial 10-day silent retreat Vipassana, in India. You have the tragedy with your dad. Just before that occurs, you come back, you're living your life, you go back into brigade, and then you do another one. And then at some point you're making a decision, to leave fire and devote yourself full time to the MindEasy. I'm assuming that there was a component of faith or courage that you had to, you've had to deploy in that process. Would you talk about that? Would you talk about maybe the impact that your learnings and your transformation from meditation, brought to that process for you?
Sure, definitely. I mean, I guess the thing that's just made me take the step is just because, I don't know, I'm impulsive, but also it just really felt pulled towards just being like, okay, this is the right thing to do. And it's quite funny, really. I'd say the least mindful part of my life for a while was building a mindfulness website or just being an entrepreneur. It's the biggest. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I had no experience with entrepreneurship or web building and all this stuff. I was very naive, and then
and running a spiritual teaching business are two wholly different things. Or building a spiritual teaching business, two totally different.
I mean, just building an online business from working every day, outside with my friends. The fire brigade, the work is very reactive. Something happens and you do it. To working by myself behind a screen, having to figure out what I have to do. Like, there's always, my original ideas for MindEasy I still want to achieve, but like I've had to swerve off in like 100 different ways to find what works. And I'd say like I'm definitely would have quit before if I hadn't had those like practices in place, because sometimes you are just like, I'm sure entrepreneurship is just failure after failure after failure, and you've got to build a bit of resilience, and you've got to be able to look at yourself when you're being like, what have I done, just to be like, this isn't permanent, like don't worry, it's going to be okay. I feel it. So totally different world.
Yes, that there's a faith that gets developed or got developed in your experience of impermanence, and you're able to kind of like apply that over towards the frustration that you were understandably experiencing in
Yeah,
building.
yeah, definitely. I mean, especially during COVID, when that was kind of
Yeah.
during the beginning of it, so it was just like even more
Oh
of an
my God.
isolated experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. So there were parts of COVID that didn't feel very impermanent as we were
Yeah,
going.
but it was.
Yep. Have you been kind of like a lone wolf in your development, or is there a community of people that that you plugged into in your area that, yeah, as you kind of been on this path, this meditative, path, or even not even just like in the personal spiritual journey, just in the entrepreneurship? Are you lone wolfing that, or is there a community of people that you tap into for support?
Lone wolfing it really. I probably should do better at networking. I mean, I talk on Facebook groups or Reddit groups when they run into technical issues and stuff like this, but not with any kind of real community about it or like people I really know. So yeah, basically just solopreneur, just trying to figure it out. And I think as it's grown now, I'm getting to the stage where I can entice people into it a bit more because I have a bit more of a bigger audience, and I can say, hey, look, do you want to get involved? And it seems like people's worry. So that's something I'm looking forward to in the future, hopefully building up a bit more of a team and having more people involved. But yeah, for the last 3 or 4 years, it's just been me.
Is what you're doing right now, is it what you imagined the business would be like, where you, not the path to get there, but like where you are now, or are you still pretty far out from what the vision is for yourself?
Yeah, I'd say quite far away. I mean, there's always just so much you want to do. I mean, essentially, I had an initial and angel investor, some money to get me going with it, and then ran out of money and realized I had to learn how to market for free, essentially. So other than meditation, my main skills in the last year I've been developing is like search engine optimization, SEO, just because that's the way you can do that. So I guess, I mean, like at the moment, the main driving force behind MindEasy is it's a kind of spiritual niche blog where I blog about like different spiritual aspects, which I find really fun. And I love learning about like lots of different aspects of stuff. And I think it's going to, in the long run, open it up. But yeah, once that's kind of got me to a place where I can then invest back into developing more courses and kind of like recreating that main vision is still something I'm trying to work towards.
Where in this process, as you've navigated this transformation, have you had to be your most flexible?
I mean, I think during the whole thing, I've tried so many. There's been so many iterations of this business that I've had to change. I mean, initially it was like a email. I was trying to email people their meditations, which in hindsight I think was a terrible idea. Then it was a membership WordPress site. Then it's a blog. Hopefully it'll be an app one day, and I'd like to take it into the real world eventually. But yeah, during the whole thing, I think the one business book I read, I don't know if you've read it, is the Lean Startup about
I'm gonna write it down though.
Yeah, it's really good. But I mean, the main message behind it is just be flexible, just be willing to pivot, don't hold on to the thing which isn't working, and just let the business shape itself in a way rather than you trying to hold on to like your vision or something.
But I'm asking these questions because I'm literally like I'm at the point where you and the fire brigade happening at the MindEasy and fire brigade happening at the same time. Like that's part of where I am as well. So I'm like, ooh, tell me the goods. Tell me how we're navigating. If you were, was there a certain point where you just like knew that you needed to kind of was it after the second Vipassana retreat, was it like a bolt of lightning, like I must do this thing? Or what was the process by which you decided that you needed to kind of get this information out into the world?
Yeah, I guess after the second one, I was just sitting around in the fire station, I think, and I was just kind of like, look, because I mean, my opinions of meditation, I'm definitely approaching more from the spiritual side of things now, but at the time I didn't. So I was kind of just running over the stuff in my head that had been presented to me in a very Buddhist way, and then like translating it into a way which was working for me. And that's kind of like when that moment was like, oh, this is what I should do, and this is how I should share it. That kind of just like initially just got me started and pushed me in that direction. I think there wasn't, it was a slow build. It was a big thing to leave the fire brigade. It was such a big part of my life and such a big part of my identity, but it definitely didn't, it definitely took a year of building up to. But I mean, the truth is I started when I was 18, and I was probably going to be doing it until I was 55. And I think I just made the decision that I just didn't want to be doing the same job in the same city for my whole life. And that was my opportunity to do it. And like I said, I was probably quite impulsive and and did it. And yeah, I've definitely been a few moments and I've regretted it, but I'm at a place now where I'm really happy with where things are at.
That's awesome. So with the success so far with what and by the way, the website at MindEasy.com there's so much incredible content. It is amazing. What's the biggest challenge that you're still working through?
There's so many. I mean, I'm so just focused on the blog at the moment, but the biggest challenge has always just been to like really grow the meditation product. And to push that, and just paid marketing, I guess. That's something I have to build up, and was always very unsuccessful at. And that can just be a money pit if you're no good at it. So it's been the biggest challenge.
What would you say to someone who is, let's say, I know a few people who are probably would be good candidates for meditation, and maybe they're just resistant for one reason or the other. I think a lot of times for me, I see people who get caught up in the dogma associated, with meditation.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that. It's, oh, those people do that, or it looks like this. So if you've got, what would you say to someone who, if they're being honest with themselves, is like a little bit curious about meditation, but they just don't want to associate and kind of get bogged down with everybody else's, with their judgments on everybody else's stuff? Like, what would you say to somebody who's in that position to get them to kind of just like give it a run? And what kind of
it's such a hard like line to walk, because on one side of it, you've got, I mean, like a lot of people call it the mindfulness kind of like approach of, and you just like feed people these kind of like salesy buzzwords of just like, more focus, better sleep, all this stuff, like you're, selling them, I don't know, just like a great little device, and it's going to solve all their problems. And unfortunately, with meditation, and why it can be quite a hard thing to sell, is because so many things on the in today's world and the stuff you buy online is such like quick fixes. Mm-hmm. And like with meditation, it takes time. Like it's hard, and it's going to be frustrating. And but I think people have to find their own way there, really. And just like I just try to have, try to capture people like I've been trying to do, and every different kind of direction towards it, and say, if you want it for this, it will do this, and it does, it can help you in this way. But people really have to take that step and like sit down and be like, okay, I'm ready to explore. Well, you're exploring your own mind basically. And I think there's a certain amount of curiosity which it's hard to convince people of that. But I think meditation has changed so much in the last, say, 20 years. I mean, it's like at the place where exercise used to be, when people would be like, what are you out, 50 years ago, someone running, you'd be like, what are you running from?
Exactly.
And now if you're not exercising, we feel guilty about it. I know I do. And I think meditation's moving into that point now where people, especially the newer generation, are really interested in self-care, and there's nothing better for that, really. So I think it kind of is finding its own way into people's lives.
Awesome. Last question. If you were going to share someone with someone who was longing to take a risk actually, maybe make a leap that you've, similar to a leap that you've made, but whatever that is in their own life, and they're scared, like, what would you want to tell them, or like let them know to potentially, give them a chance to make a transformation in their lives?
I think the most important lesson for me in this, I've got from this, is that you have to learn to enjoy failing, because when you start anything, you're just gonna fail constantly. And like, if you see failure as a reflection on yourself, and it's very easy to get disheartened. But like, if you reframe it as like, this is just a process of learning and you getting better, then each failure isn't a bad thing. Each failure is just like a next step, and really they are successes in their own kind of way.
Awesome. Griff, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. What is the best way for people in the community to connect with you and connect with your work?
You just head to MindEasy.com, find a course you like, sign up. If and part of MindEasy's service is it's not just the courses, but I'm a certified meditation instructor of the British School of Meditation, and I'll be there always, like at the end of an email, to support people through their meditation journey. There's always questions, there's always things people need, and you email me, I'll email you back. Basically, it's still a small thing. Just get on there and connect, and we'll figure it out together.
That's awesome. Congratulations on everything, and look forward to staying in contact in the future. Thanks, Griff.
No worries. Cheers.
All right, this has been another episode of the Intentional Soul Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to leave a 5-star review if you found this content of value. And as always, I'm your host, Tom Ross, Master Practitioner of the Advanced Rapid Enlightenment Process and Rapid Enlightenment Process developed by Matthew Ferry. You can reach me at tom@tomrosstalks.com, and the website to engage and be a part of any classes, trainings, or sessions I have going on is www.tomrosstalks.com. Until next time, peace.